just wanted to share something with you. I have on the screens is going to be two images of polling data. And for proper context, I must say that this is a actual shift toward Trump. As time has gone, the lead that Hillary had has shrunk, and in certain cases has completely diminished, and it's gone on the opposite side. So here are the two images. This, as you can tell, has been helped along by Hillary's bad press relations on dealing with tough subjects. Frankly, not really tough, but she didn't want to answer on the email controversies and other supposed minor controversies where she's been caught lying to the American people. And I want to show you a couple of news clips for clarity on why this is such an impactful thing. These are liberal media outlets that are coming up. But I want you to listen to these extremely liberal personalities take on Hillary's responses to the criticisms.
Last question, it's not about email, but it's about what led to email. A lot of people think that your guard's up. After a very long time in public life, you say they've been coming at you forever, a lot of scar tissue there. Is it possible that you've accumulated so much scar tissue back and forth with political opponents that has you girding for it all the time, that makes it difficult for you to lead effectively, interact effectively with people on the other side? There's a mask up and you can't.
Well, all I can tell you is that there's no evidence of that in my public career. As First Lady, I worked with Republicans. We got the Children's Health Insurance Program passed. I worked with Tom DeLay to reform adoption and foster care. I got to the Senate. I worked with nearly all the Republicans. In the Secretary of State's office, I worked with Republicans. I had to round up the votes to pass the treaty to lower nuclear weapons with Russia. So, you know, when I am working with people, they say a lot of nice things about me. In fact, we have a whole archive. Perhaps we'll see that during the general election.
I suspect we will.
I think you will. So no, I mean, it's just when I'm running that they know I mean what I say, and I will do the best I can to achieve what I have proposed. And so look, you know, it's a contest, and they want to win it. I want to win it. So yeah, we're going to have.
You don't think your defensive instincts are going to inhibit you as a leader?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, that's just not the evidence from, you know, my years working with Republicans. I've said I'll go anywhere to meet with anybody to find common ground, and I will.
Hey everybody, it's Jake Tapper from CNN State of the Union and factcheck.org, and today we're going to take a look at a comment made by former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton about her private email server that she used for official state business. Take a listen.
As I have said many times, you know, that was absolutely permitted, and I did it, and it turned out to be a mistake. It wasn't the best choice.
Is that true? Was Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server for official business while she was Secretary of State absolutely permitted? No, that's not true. She says that because she permitted herself and there was no one absolutely prohibiting her. In fact, I asked her about who signed off on this private server last October. Take a listen.
It was allowed under the rules of the State Department, and again...
So nobody signed off on it?
No, it was allowed.
Okay, so what exactly was allowed? Federal regulations allowed Clinton to send and receive emails outside the government system, but those emails had to be preserved before she left office. Now, Clinton did not provide the State Department with emails from her private server until 21 months after she left office. A federal judge in a lawsuit involving Clinton's email said she failed to follow, quote, government policy on preserving federal records, and her decision to conduct government business exclusively on this private server was, in the words of one expert, quote, inconsistent with long-established policies and practices governing all federal agencies. Now, the Clinton campaign maintains that the secretary's email practices were permitted because of a 2009 regulation that said that federal agencies may allow their employees to send and receive work-related emails using a system not operated by the agency, but it also said an agency must ensure that federal records sent or received on such systems are preserved in the appropriate agency record-keeping system, and Clinton did not follow those federal regulations on preserving email records. In the end, former Secretary of State Clinton's exclusive use of her private email server for the people's business was definitely unusual. It was definitely discouraged, and she did not comply with government regulations when it came to preserving government records. A reminder to all the politicians out there, you're perfectly entitled to your own opinions, not to your own facts. I'm Jake Tapper for State of the Union on CNN and factcheck.org.
A lot to get to this morning.
Big news today, obviously. It's on a lot of the front pages. Hillary Clinton coming under intense fire from her own State Department, faulting the Clintons on the email server. There's the front page of the New York Times, also, of course, on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. So that is the big news today.
Yeah, so let's start there, because she was hoping to celebrate a big endorsement, and that would be one of the United Auto Workers and their 400,000 members. That's pretty big. But instead, this report from the Inspector General's Office of the State Department took the narrative in a very different direction. The report concluded that she violated the Federal Records Act by not turning over all official emails before she left office. The report also found that there was no evidence she had requested or received approval to use her personal account for official business. Clinton all along has maintained the use of her server was allowed.
My personal email use was fully above board. It was allowed by the State Department, as they have confirmed.
What I did was allowed by the State Department, but it wasn't the best choice. And I have been as transparent as I know to be.
And you said it was allowed, too.
Yes, it was.
But who allowed it? Who?
It was allowed under the rules of the State Department. And again,
So nobody signed off on it?
No, it was allowed. One of my predecessors did the same thing. Others in our government have done the same thing at very high levels, because the rules did change after I left the State Department. But at the time and in prior years, the rules allowed it.
Well, as I have said many times, that was absolutely permitted, and I did it, and it turned out to be a mistake. It wasn't the best choice.
Well, Jim VandeHei, first of all, I mean, we said all along around this table that the State Department didn't allow this, because people inside the State Department, at the highest reaches of the State Department, saying she never asked anybody. This was never allowed. They kept saying it day in and day out, day in and day out. New York Times talks about, in this article, a candidate's negative controversy and the voters' fading trust. Here we have Donald Trump, who obviously, on a lot of key issues, changes with the wind, and is accused of not being honest and trustworthy. Right. You look at the poll numbers, his numbers are horrific, just as bad as Hillary Clinton's. And this is yet another nail in that coffin of voters' trust.
No doubt. I mean, even watch those clips. I don't even think people think she's telling the truth in those. She looks like she's trying to convince herself of it. And the report is, I think it is devastating in that she says on all those clips, it was authorized, it was okay, it's not a big deal. The report says, no, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And you have to step back and remember, this is her State Department. It's her State Department. She ran the State Department. It's the IG in her department that is making this determination. And so I do think you have two candidates who, 60% of people think are dishonest. And if you look at this week of the campaign, it shows you everything you need to know about the next 3 months. It's going to be gross.
So to
it's
your
going to be a
point,
battle of
the
negativity.
Clinton campaign has long maintained the server was never breached, but the report tells of one incident when an advisor shut it down out of concern that it was under attack. And the footnotes tell of an incident in 2011 where Secretary Clinton was concerned someone was, quote, hacking into her email after getting more than one email with a suspicious link. According to the report, security officials should be notified even when a personal device is feared compromised. But according to the report, they found no evidence that the secretary or her staff ever reported the incident.
And that, Donnie, this goes to national security, obviously. The biggest concern is national security. A lot of people act like, well, there's much ado about nothing here. Well, actually, there are a lot of classified documents, a lot of classified materials going through this server. And the great fear all along that a homebrewed server in Chappaqua, New York, was going to be broken into.
Not a knife to the heart, but a very deep flesh wound. Unfortunately for Hillary, this is right on brand. You know, in the advertising business, we have kind of a brand positioning state, and then we have brand support points. This is a brand support point. If her brand is untrustworthiness, this is one more pill in there. The interesting thing to think about is how would Donald Trump, this election is going to be, you call it gross, I'll call it counterpunching. How would Donald Trump have reacted if this had happened to him? He would be saying, you know, emails. You're kidding me, right? Me, Colin Powell, this is what we did. I made a mistake. Look at Hillary Clinton. She killed Vince Foster. I mean, that's what would be happening there. Hillary has no way of counterpunching. So the difference is, whereas Trump, no matter what you throw at him, he's got the counterpunch. No matter what you throw at Hillary, she never has a way of swatting it back. So it's not devastating, but in this election, if the game for the next 3 or 4 months is to make Trump seem more presidential and less temperamentally, you know, unstable, you can start to move that needle. I don't know how you move the untrustworthy
Here's a
needle.
problem, though, Mike Barnicle. Trump, he lies about Trump's state success. He lies about the success of some of his business ventures. He flip-flops on issues where he was a reality show host when he took those positions. And it seems like it's, you know, down here. With Hillary Clinton, you have an honest and trustworthy issue involving classified emails, classified information, and 22 emails that the State Department itself said were so classified that sending them public would have a devastating impact on America's national security. That's, when we're talking about honest and trustworthy, I don't know that she can go Hulk Hogan and get down in the mud on an issue like this because the stakes are so much higher.
And we've just been talking about the top of this story, the headlines of this story, the lead of this story. Within the report, there's other devastating issues. The fact that she declined repeatedly the Inspector General's request for an interview, when every other former secretary, Madeleine Albright, Colin Powell, John Kerry, Condoleezza Rice, all were interviewed by the Inspector General. It goes to that
bunker mentality, secrecy that led her to do this in the first place.
In June of 2011, the State Department, the Secretary of State, sent out a cable to all consular and diplomatic posts, urging them and commanding them basically to stop using home email for anything having to do with State Department business. And yet she did not follow that edict.
Right.
A cable under her name to every diplomatic and consular post in the world.
When she says it was allowed,
she never asked. She never asked for permission. The Inspector General stated she never asked for permission to use a personal email, and he added that if she had, the State Department would have declined permission.
What Trump is salivating at, he doesn't now only have lying Hillary, he's got incompetent Hillary. He's got dangerous Hillary. She's dangerous. She can't be the president. He has such an ability.
She's got entitled. He's got entitled.
He's got 10 new words for her, and it just. And by the time this is done, it will seem like, according to Trump, that she sent directly to Putin emails that she wasn't supposed to, and that's what he'll do.
You know, Joe, what this could really mean. I don't know how the public reacts to this, whether they just say, oh, you know, whatever, and turn the page and go to the sports page. But it adds to the weight of voter exhaustion when it comes to the Clintons. And that's a huge burden for her to carry.
I know, you know, a lot of her supporters, both politically and in magazines and in papers and on TV, have been saying, well, this isn't going to have a big impact. Al Hunt, this isn't going to have a big impact on Hillary's numbers. I mean, who cares about the emails? What we've always believed, and I think what we've seen, is that you go to the subset question of honest and trustworthy, that it has had a devastating impact on that. And let's remember, Hillary Clinton was a woman with an approval rating around 65, 66% when she left the State Department. Her numbers have plummeted, and in large part, I've got to believe, because the drip, drip, drip continues of this. And again, it's not from Breitbart, it's not from Drudge. This started with the New York Times, and here we have Hillary Clinton's own State Department issuing pretty devastating review of her use of these emails.
Yeah, Joe, I think this and the Wall Street speeches are responsible for taking her from a 60% approval down to a 30% approval. I think it really is serious, and it raises another question. What kind of people, what kind of advisors does she have? Why didn't someone say, I'm sorry, Madam Secretary, you cannot do this? She should not have done it, but she should have had people around her who, instead of saying that, were enablers. And that raises questions about who she surrounds herself with. I think it really hurts. I agree with everything that's been said. She broke the rules. That's really bad. The really big issue here is, did she break the law? And that will be determined in the next couple of weeks. If that should happen, which I actually suspect that they will rule she didn't, Joe, but I don't know. If that should happen, it would be lethal.
So let's just kind of go through some of the details here that are a little troubling and definitely conflict with what she has said before. The Clinton campaign released a statement which read in part this: the Inspector General's documents show just how consistent her email practices were with those of other secretaries and senior officials at the State Department.
Jim Van de Heye,
also use personal email.
You're shrugging right here. I mean,
even that's not accurate.
It's pretty remarkable.
And nobody reading that thinks it's accurate. That's the problem. They keep digging a deeper hole.
Remember a couple weeks ago, Mika, where I said the remarkable thing about the Clintons during the 1990s were that I was on the Government Reform and Oversight Committee, they would bring people in like Bernie Nussbaum who would lie to us. And you were there, Jim.
Yep.
I mean, in a lot of these hearings, the people on the podium would be laughing because they knew they were lying. Bernie Nussbaum basically would be smiling because he knew he was lying. Everybody in the crowd would be laughing because they knew they were lying. They would come tell fantastical tales that everybody knew was not true. And I sat there, I couldn't believe what I was watching, but it happened week in, Mika, and week out. Why? I don't understand why you put out a statement like that. Stop digging. Stop digging. I screwed up. I'm terribly sorry. I hope the American people will forgive me, and I hope they will let us move on to the issues that matter. Stop lying. Stop digging.
So just for this, and then we'll get into some of the details, a spokesman for Bernie Sanders said, quote, the
evidence here presented about what's going on with Hillary Clinton's slumping poll numbers is much self-infliction. She has got to understand and quit making up lies to try to save her tail. She will not save her political career in this current state of the election. She is damaging herself along with receiving damage from Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders on her record. She is untrustworthy and cannot be Commander-in-Chief with things the way they are. She's got to come clean and become more transparent, or Trump will trounce her in the general election. Thank you. I hope you have a nice day. and talk to you at another drop.